I'm Daniel Levine, and this is the Bio Report.
While GLP-1 agonists have been all the rage in treating obesity, Coya Therapeutics sees potential for these therapies to address inflammatory diseases. In fact, Coya is developing its low-dose interleukin 2 in combination with several different agents. The belief is that its approach will address inflammation by targeting dysfunctional regulatory T cells. The company is pursuing multiple neurodegenerative conditions as well as autoimmune and metabolic diseases. We spoke to Arun Swaminathan, CEO of Coya, about its pipeline and a product strategy to treat neurodegenerative and other inflammatory diseases, its pursuit of a GLP-1 combination therapy for these conditions, and the challenges of being a newly minted public company in the current financial environment. Arun, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for having me on your show.
We're going to talk about neurodegenerative diseases, Coya Therapeutics, and its efforts to develop a combination therapy that marries a low-dose interleukin 2 with a GLP-1 agonist. We're speaking right after the JP Morgan conference. Coya is in a rarefied group as it managed to go public at the end of 2022, a difficult time to complete an IPO. I'm wondering if you'd start by talking about the thinking in Coya going public then.
Yeah, I actually joined Coya a couple of months after we went public. So our founder, Howard Berman, really led the efforts of the IPO. Um, and, as you pointed out, it was a very tough environment in the end of December of 2022 when we went public. So I really think it's a great testament to the management team and our scientific approach that we were able to go public in that difficult environment. Part of the reason to go public, of course, for any company is to raise capital to efficiently advance the programs. And we wanted to advance our programs efficiently. And at that time, the IPO was the best avenue for it, especially given the tough private market as well in late 2022, early 2023.
Do you know what the discussions with investors were at that time?
My understanding is that the investors were extremely excited by our scientific approach, because one of the things is our scientific approach is de-risked because we are pursuing targets that have been well characterized in other diseases. And we're applying it to new diseases and new applications. So it was a good combination of innovation, but de-risking the unknowns that comes with completely esoteric targets. So I think the investors found that extremely attractive, and that's what brought them into the story. And I think, yeah, the testament that they are all still believers is that in subsequent public rounds, we've had almost all of those investors continue to participate and stay in the Koya story.
We've just finished what's arguably the most important financial gathering for the biotech industry each year. What's your sense of the mood among investors today, and how has that changed?
Yeah, at the macro level, obviously, there are better experts than myself to tell you how the macro environment was. But my sense was that there was cautious optimism in biotech. Optimism is coming back. Obviously, it's been a tough few years for biotech market in general. But specific to Koya, it was extremely a great meeting for us. And I feel very optimistic about our future, our ability to continue to create value based on that meeting. A lot of excitement around our approach to these diseases. positive conversations around the potential of combining our proprietary low-dose interleukin-2 Coya 301 with other modalities in neurodegenerative diseases, and also a lot of positive feedback we received on the potential combination of Coya 301 with GLP-1 agonists, which we are now calling Coya 303. So overall, I feel bullish coming out of the JPM conference for Coya.
I think of Koya as a sort of pipeline and a product company. It's got this low dose IL-2 that it could put in combination with a range of other compounds and therapies that modulate the immune system. At the same time, it's broadly applicable against neurodegenerative disease, autoimmune disease, and metabolic conditions. In terms of building out that pipeline, what effect has the investment environment had on the way you're hiring, pursuing programs, or making spending decisions?
Yeah, at Koya, we have always been extremely fiscally responsible and frugal. We really advance our programs in a systematic way without burning a lot of cash, and you can see that in our cash burn rates. We have leveraged investigator-initiated trials. We have leveraged grants, and we have leveraged a lot of non-dilutive ways, including the partnership we did with Dr. Reddy's to continue to strengthen our cash flow and to extend it and get things done. And so we will continue to do that. We have a fantastically nimble team, a team of people that have great experience across industry, big companies, small companies, and a track record of delivering excellence in whatever previous roles they were in. And we have a highly motivated team at Koya. So we get a lot done by being focused, and I plan to continue that model at least in the foreseeable future.
Koya is focused on enhancing the function of regulatory T cells. Can you explain what these are and what role they play in a healthy immune system, and what happens to them in neurodegenerative, autoimmune, and metabolic diseases?
Yes. So I'll take a step up. Maybe I know regulatory T cells are a type of T cells. So first of all, T cells are the ones that get activated and go after what they think are foreign viruses or bacteria or whatever it may be that they think should not be in the body. Right? They are our defense mechanism, and they do their job. They go and attack. And then there's these things called T helper cells, which, as the name implies, they help the T cells to be more efficient in attacking these unwanted entities. What the regulatory T cells do, as the name implies, they regulate or moderate this. They basically make sure that the T cells, while they're attacking, don't go so crazy, if I may use that word, and start destroying healthy cells or cells you want to preserve. And that's what the regulatory T cells do. And what we do, our approach is to increase the function and numbers of these Tregs so we keep that balance. Now, when Tregs start becoming dysfunctional in a normal individual where there isn't a reason for the T cells to be activated, that's when you start getting neurodegenerative diseases and also autoimmune diseases, because now you're just enabling the T cells to attack their own healthy cells, which you don't want. And that is exactly what we address at Koya through addressing the function of Treg, keeping them functional. We believe that fundamentally we can bring down neuroinflammation, which is really the driver of a lot of these neurodegenerative diseases.
And are dysfunctional regulatory T cells a cause or effect of these conditions?
But what we do know for certain is that when you make Tregs more functional, or the flip side, when Tregs become more dysfunctional, which they do in patients, for example, ALS patients, that leads to rapid progression of disease. So keeping the Tregs functional is key to preventing neuroinflammation and all the downstream cascade negative things that happen in neurodegenerative and autoimmune diseases. It is always a chicken and egg question on which comes first. We do know also that in patients with ALS, in patients with FTD, there is a decrease in the Treg function. But fundamentally, it's almost less important what happens first, but what we do know is that if we address the Treg dysfunction, the earlier we address it, the better in stopping the progression of neurodegenerative diseases. And it is true for neurodegenerative diseases like ALS, and it's true for diseases like dementia or Alzheimer's, which is the most common form of dementia.
As I mentioned earlier, Coya has a low dose interleukin 2 that serves as a backbone to combination therapies that are expected to act on multiple inflammatory pathways. IL-2 is a cytokine that has been used to treat several indications. What does IL-2 do?
IL-2 has an interesting biology. So I'm going to differentiate IL-2 in two ways. One is what is called a low dose IL-2, which is the focus at Coya. Low dose IL-2 and medium and high dose IL-2 behave exactly the opposite way. They're kind of like the yin and yang or seesaw of in their biology. It's sometimes counterintuitive to people. Low dose interleukin 2, what it does is it increases both the numbers and the function of Tregs, which is what you want in neurodegenerative diseases and also in autoimmune diseases, by the way. When you start pushing the IL-2 dose higher, when it starts getting towards that middle to high doses, it actually makes the Tregs dysfunctional, which is what you want when you're trying to kill cancer cells, but it is not what you want when you're treating neurodegenerative diseases. So it's very important to differentiate these two. And in an investigator-initiated trial that we disclosed data in patients with Alzheimer's disease, this is exactly what we saw happen. This is the hypothesis going into the study, and we saw that as we pushed that IL-2 dose higher, it's actually less effective because it's starting to go, the pendulum is starting to swing the other way. So it's very important that you keep it low dose. And when I say low dose, I'm talking 1-2 million units of IL-2 versus 50-60 million units of IL-2, which is sometimes used in indications like oncology.
How difficult is it to balance a therapeutic dose of IL-2 without causing undue side effects?
So first, on the side effect side, because we use the low-dose interleukin 2 in the investigator trials so far and in literature data as well, you don't really see any significant side effects because it is multifold lower than the IL-2 doses that have clinically been typically used in oncology. The second is that the second question of how do we make sure that the IL-2's therapeutic window is strong is precisely why we believe in combinations. We take low-dose interleukin 2, in our case, our proprietary IL-2 is called Coya 301, and combine it with other agents. Coya 302, for example, is a combination with CTLA4. What the CTLA4 does is it acts on a different side of the immune system, on the macrophages, keeping the environment further anti-inflammatory. And what this does is that it actually increases the durability of the Treg function. So it allows it to be sustained for longer, and it also increases the magnitude of the suppressive function. So by doing this combination, we're able to address the question you're asking, which is we're able to, in a way, increase the therapeutic window of this low dose IL-2 so it's not that fine a line of separation. And that's why we really believe that that kind of combination is the way to move forward with low dose IL-2.
You're looking broadly across disease, neurodegenerative disease, metabolic, and autoimmune conditions, but you're also looking broadly at agents that modulate the immune system. How do you narrow in on the best combinations for a given condition? Is it a matter of trial and error, or is there some way you're able to take a more tailored approach?
We do take a tailored approach. It starts with strong scientific rationale based on the literature of some of these agents that we choose to combine with. For example, we recently announced GLP-1 combinations. There's strong scientific rationale for that, even without us having done an experiment before. But then we validate that with experiments, and that's how we systematically move it forward. GLP-1s, I think only yesterday there was a big Nature publication of 1 million patients from the VA health system, where they looked at diabetic patients that were on GLP-1 agonists, drugs like Wegovy, Ozempic, Zepbound, etc., versus people who are on sulfonylureas or DPP-4 inhibitors, basically other diabetic agents. The gist of the study, it's a pretty detailed study, but the gist from a dementia perspective was that patients who were on GLP-1 seemed to have less incidence of dementia and also slower progression of dementia if they already had dementia. And there was another study in Lancet last year that pretty much had the similar conclusions. And Novo Nordisk is doing two double-blind randomized studies in early Alzheimer's disease patients with their GLP-1 as well. So there's a lot of scientific evidence out there. And then when we look at how our Coya 301 works, it made a lot of sense that the two together will have synergistic potential on theory. And we also believe that GLP-1s alone can't really do the trick. I mean, it's going to be effective, but it's probably going to require something more to get the kind of efficacy that we want to deliver for these patients. So that gave us the first idea, and then we did in preclinical work. We have filed IP around this combination. We will be hopefully publishing the preclinical work in the upcoming months. But at a very high level, what I can disclose is that the preclinical work showed that combining our Coya 301 with the GLP-1 agonist is synergistic, meaning 1 + 1 is better than 2, and that sets us up for the potential clinical applications of this combination. And I think it's going to be a really compelling combination, both from the potential and from a value creation perspective. So that's an example of how we got there. Similar approach we did for CTLA4. I'm going to keep this short, but we looked at other agents. We looked at things like JAK inhibitors. Do JAK inhibitors work in combination with 301? Yes, they do. We chose CTLA4 for multiple reasons, including the efficacy, but also balancing the safety profile of CTLA4 versus JAK inhibitors. So a lot of different things. It's at the end of it, it's a benefit risk balance in these things. So you want to move forward the combinations that will provide the most efficacy benefit to a patient with the least side effects. So that's kind of what we strive for.
What's the plan for advancing a GLP-1 combination therapy, and where are you in those efforts?
Yeah, so I mean, we want to first, we're going to do an additional preclinical animal model study in a neurodegenerative disease with the combination, and we're collaborating with academic university to do that. But in parallel, obviously, we will have conversations. We're having conversations with companies that in their portfolio have GLP-1s, or companies that are simply interested in that combination, even if they don't have a GLP-1 in their portfolio. Because what we can do is what we want to do and is advance it to the next stage, the IND enabling stages, the clinical stages, along with a bigger partner. That's kind of what we want to do, and we feel pretty good that we can get there. Obviously, we will be generating additional preclinical data along the way, but our objective is to move forward with a strategic partner with a combination that of to advance Coya through into the next stages of development.
And is the expectation that you would have the partner take this commercially?
Yes, I mean, Koya, at least where we stand today, we don't see ourselves as a commercialization company. I'm a strong believer that you got to leave uh, things to experts. There are companies much better equipped and prepared to commercialize products than Koya is. And I think ideally you want to partner with them and let them commercialize it so most number of patients can benefit from the therapies we hopefully bring to the market. And we have done this already, for example, with ALS, right? We gave our commercial rights to Dr. Reddy's for ALS for many of the territories globally because we believe that they're better positioned um, to have a sales force and get this marketed than we are. So yes, we would like to follow a similar model for our GLP-1 combinations as well.
Is there reason to believe one GLP-1 agonist might be better than another for this purpose?
Short answer is we don't know. We are studying multiple of them, and again, depending on the partner we have, we may choose one over the other. But yes, I mean there may be some differences, but I don't think we have enough data to say one is better than the other at this point. So,
Arun Swaminathan, CEO of Coya Therapeutics. Arun, thanks so much for your time today.
thank you, Daniel, and it was a pleasure to be on your show, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for listening. The Bio Report is a production of the Levine Media Group. To automatically download this podcast each week, subscribe to our RSS feed or through iTunes or other podcast manager. To join our mailing list, go to levinemediagroup.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line or are interested in sponsoring this podcast, send email to danny@levinemediagroup.com. Special thanks to Jonah Levine, who composed our theme music, and the Jonah Levine Collective, which performs it.